Okay, so the first round of the 2022 NRL season completed. Let's have a look at the scores. Let's break them down. The good performances, the bad performances, a lot of high-scoring games, a lot of tries scored, and a couple of shocks in there as well that weren't expected before kickoff. Absolutely amazing weekend of rugby league. We'll start with the Panthers, the reigning premiers against the Sea Eagles. 28-6 final score to the Panthers. They looked dangerous even without Nathan Cleary. There were concerns that they might have issues like they did last season when Nathan Cleary was out injured or during the Origin period. O'Sullivan slotted in perfectly. They have lost a few players in the off-season. The Sea Eagles, they just couldn't get going. They lost the forward battle, and Trbojevic was kept very, very quiet. The Panthers, their speed off the line and their combinations, they looked a bit shaky in the trials, but obviously they're either keeping their powder dry and hustling us a little bit, or they've just worked hard in the 2 weeks of training. So 28-6 to the Panthers, solid result. And it's very rare that a reigning premier actually wins their first game the following season. So they are still pretty good odds on going back-to-back, but we're only 1 week in. The Raiders 24-19 over the Sharks. This was a game that ebbed and flowed either way. It was very tight until the end. The Raiders burst into a lead, and then the Sharks came back, and then the Raiders steal it at the end. As a Raiders fan, I'm happy with that. Last season, the Raiders lose that game. So that is a positive result for the Raiders. The Sharks, a couple of new signings in key positions, Nico Hines and Dale Finucane, for example. They had very, very good games, and on another day, they win 24-19. It was that kind of game where it literally went down to fine margins, but I think the Sharks can take a lot out of that defeat with the new signings in key positions. And the Raiders, as I say, last season, they lose that game. So some really good performances put in there by some players. They really stepped up to the plate under pressure. The Broncos 11-4 over the Rabbitohs. South Sydney were poor. And it's the Wayne Bennett exit syndrome, as it is known, because every team that he leaves tends to decline after he leaves and moves on. The Broncos, not overly convincing. They were the better team. Kirk Capewell with the drop goal as well from a forward. You don't expect to see that very often. Positive start for the Broncos, but they had some decent form at the end of last season. But Kevin Walters is a coach under pressure. Needs to be consistent. They need to back it up with back-to-back wins this season. So the following weeks are going to be, very, very important for the Broncos. The next 2-3 games, if they can win 2 out of 3 of the next 4, for example, they're in a nice, solid position to start the season. But Adam Reynolds has got to come back into that side. We'll see how he slots in. The Roosters 6-20 to the Knights. The Knights shocking the Roosters. So the first 3 games, all the home teams win. The second 3 games, the away teams win. So the Knights beat the Roosters 20-6 away from home. The Knights just were quicker to the ball, the 50-50s, higher line speed. The Roosters, they've lost a lot of experience over the last 2 years. A lot of players have been injured and retired. You can tell that lack of leadership on the field. Losing Boyd Cordner, the Morris twins, and Jake Friend, I think, has finally caught up with them. Yes, they were still competitive with all those injuries last season and the season before, but I think they're starting to break down as a team. I think they've peaked, and the Roosters may have a bit of a long season ahead of them. People are predicting them to make the grand final, but on that performance, they're not even close. I know it's round 1. The Knights, they've got to be consistent this season. Brilliant first result. Dane Gagai was out of this world, but they again have to be consistent and put a good run to start the season. After 5, maybe 6 rounds, we can see if they're still winning games and if the Roosters can respond in the next couple of weeks, because the Roosters were absolutely atrocious. So really expecting more from the Roosters there. The Warriors lost 28-16 at home to the Dragons. This was a game that swung both ways. The Dragons went up, then the Warriors come back. The Warriors are on top, and the Dragons come back. Ravalawa with a hat-trick has proven the difference. And Zach Lomax with those offloads. That third Ravalawa try, there's 2 back-of-the-hand offloads for that. That was a pendulum swinger. Could have gone either way, but the Dragons had just that little bit extra over the Warriors. The Warriors put in a creditable performance. They allowed the game to get away from them, but I would say that there's still issues with the Warriors. They're still going to be in the bottom half of the table. They're not going to make finals, I don't think. The Dragons, let's just hope off-field the team can behave, because they had some really good form last season at points. They were in the top 8 and then barbecue gate. So, they've recruited well. Aaron Woods going off injured is going to be a bit of a blow, but they've got forward depth, and that was a solid response to last season by the Dragons. Again, it's week 1. West Tigers against the Melbourne Storm. The West Tigers had this game. They lose 16 points to 26. The Melbourne Storm were wobbling, and the Melbourne Storm they were creaking a little bit, and they weren't fluid and they weren't efficient. And losing players like Nico Hines and Dale Finucane, the Warrior, the Storm, should I say, don't often let players go that they want to keep. And I think those are 2 contracts that they might be regretting letting go. They get the win, the pure experience of them, but they've got some injuries coming out of this game in key positions. It's a bit concerning. Actually, quite a few injuries out of this game. So already it's like repeating what the Roosters have had to go through for the last 2 years. Now, that will test the Storm's depth over the opening weeks of the season. But a gritty win by the Storm. West Tigers, they let one slip there. But the Storm's unbeaten run on the first round of the season since Craig Bellamy's been there is ridiculous. That's 19 years in a row they've won round 1 unbeaten. So it's a solid performance by the Storm, but there are glaring weaknesses in there. They are looking a bit vulnerable, so maybe other sides can pick apart those vulnerabilities into the season. They didn't look as competent and as confident as they have done in previous years, so they've lost some key players moving on. So we'll see what happens there, but they always seem to unearth talent. West Tigers, I think they can be happy with their attacking performance at times. Defensively and in those pressure situations, the same issues will keep arising. The West Tigers, it could be a long season for them. The Eels 32-28 over the Titans. What a first half. Stupidly ridiculous first half. All attack, but both sides will be very disappointed defensively with how they performed, although the Titans in the second half did not allow a try, and they were winning, and then ill discipline has cost them in the second half. Could have gone either way. The Eels in attack look threatening. It's defensively that they will be very, very disappointed with their defence. The Titans as well. Defensively, too open, and again in pressure situations the discipline let them down. So high scoring game, possibly the game of the round for entertainment if you're a neutral, but if you're a Titans fan or an Eels fan, there are some concerns there defensively. And then finally the Cowboys over the Bulldogs. This could possibly be the wooden spoon between these 2 sides. It's finished 6-4 to the Bulldogs. Gutsy win, important win. 2 tries disallowed, 1 for each side. You could argue it's a bit frustrating. Forward pass for the Bulldogs, an offside for the Cowboys. It literally went down to the final minute. The Bulldogs ran out of players. They had to use the 18th man. Shop has to come on. Both starting centres have gone off injured. With HIAs, that will be a concern, especially Naden. That looked quite serious. The Cowboys, they are a team under pressure. They were winning 4-0. They lose 6-4. Low scoring game, scrappy game. Bottom of the table type stuff, but I think the Bulldogs make a lot of confidence out of it. They were under a lot of defensive pressure at times. And then the rain, the biblical rain, it rained before kickoff and then it rained in the last 15-20 minutes. It was a deluge, which then really scuppered any hope of expansive play. But I'm saying that was a gritty performance. That was a character performance by the Bulldogs, and the Cowboys and the Bulldogs, they're not going to scare the upper echelons of the ladder this season. But the Bulldogs had a bit more character than the Cowboys. There were flashes in there, and I'm still not sold on the Avarillo-Burton halves combination. I think Flanagan should really get a run in the 7 jersey, but I think everyone's saying that for game control and a bit more of experience, and that finals experience that he's got. The Cowboys could be a very long season for the Cowboys. They've got the individual talent, but if they can't put this Bulldog side away that are listless, they're still forming their combinations, it's going to be a very long season for the Cowboys up in Townsville. So there we go. That's the first round review. Obviously, after every round, we'll do this, I think, this season. I started doing it back in 2018 for the first 7-8 rounds, then I stopped, which is my fault. So for the NRL fans out there, that's round 1's review. We'll do a preview in the week. Obviously, the injury list is going to be obviously fully updated. There are some players who look done for the season already, which is really unfortunate, and there are some players who could be back sooner than expected. But Monday morning, Australian time, is when we'll find out the injury list, and by the time I get in from work, I can watch the old NRL 360 and replay, and we can have a look at the injury lists and see who's out and how that affects teams. But what opening weekend. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll have some more videos for you very, very soon.